hard-to-reach island off New York City coast is rumored to be haunted due to its storied past. When we hear of New York City, we instantly think about skyscrapers, full swing streets, and city lights. An astonishing picture of a city with a unique charm. Despite its popularity, New York City keeps some secrets from its inhabitants and tourists. A darker place than Times Square lurks off the shores of Manhattan in the East River is the waterway that used to be teeming with maritime trade as the city's main sea line and port. Nowadays, the 16-mile-long river is less coveted than it was before. What remains are the ghosts of a once lively waterway. The place can be found at the northern inlet, to be exact. There is an island that's been abandoned for more than 5 decades. Nature has been slowly eating away at the structures that used to house thousands of people every year. There, an island abandoned for more than 5 decades that once housed large numbers of people annually is called North Brother Island. And in 1885, Riverside Hospital used the island to quarantine and treat patients who contracted smallpox. There was only one way off the island. As long as the patients were contagious, they were forced to stay at the hospital. If the cure doesn't work, they would spend the rest of their life there, and even buried there. Today, the North Brother Island is deserted. Vines extend up the sides of the buildings and consume the brick structures that are spread out for more than 20 acres. Windows are shattered, both by vines and unwanted visitors sneaking onto the island. The only way to visit the island is to get explicit permission from the Parks Department. They will usually only grant permission to people conducting research, and then getting there is a project in itself. There are no docks or ports left on the island, so it's a challenge. You'd have to take a small motorboat or rowboat and essentially beach yourself just to step foot on its shores. But that hasn't stopped intrepid explorers from visiting over the years. Due to the remote and inaccessible nature of the island, there isn't a great deal of vandalism, but people have made their marks known under the cover of night, making the most of the place's eerie reputation. There can be found this ominous writing which reads, "Help me, I'm being held here against my will." It's unclear whether this is just a piece of vandalism or a cry for help from a time when the island was inhabited. Countless dark stories plague the island, and with each story and each illegal visit to the place, the stories continue to multiply, and every single one will keep you up at night. Take this tragic accident. On June 15, 1904, P.S. Slocum, a sidewheel passenger ship, was hosting a boat ride for the St. Mark's Evangelical Lutheran Church. What was supposed to be a fun and relaxing day as they sailed from New York City to the North Shore of Long Island turned into a nightmare. A fire broke out on the ship. It spread quickly throughout the boat. Instead of turning back to port, Captain William Henry Van Schaik headed towards North Brother Island instead. Many passengers could not swim to escape, as the fire consumed the boat. It was either drown or burn. Only 321 passengers from the 1,358 on board survived. In the aftermath, hundreds of bodies washed up on the shores of North Brother Island. It doesn't stop there. Since North Brother Island was working so well to contain the smallpox outbreaks, they expanded the quarantine quarters to other diseases as well, like typhoid. Mary Mallon, also known as Typhoid Mary, was a cook in New York City and an asymptomatic carrier of the disease, meaning that Mary carried the disease inside her, but it never infected her. Typhoid fever is contracted by the ingestion of contaminated food or water, and the disease seemed to follow Mary throughout her cooking jobs over several years. A researcher became suspicious and launched an investigation. It was said that she infected over 50 different people. 3 out of them died. She was taken by force to North Brother Island, where she lived in isolation for 3 years. She was later released on one simple condition: no cooking. However, she didn't listen. She changed her name and continued working as a cook. Outbreaks occurred, but she just moved on to the next job. She was able to keep it up for 5 years until she was finally caught and forced to return to the island. Mary spent the last 23 years of her life on that island. She refused to let the surgeons practice the gallbladder removal where the disease was located. Mary was convinced she was not a carrier of the disease. In 1932, she was the victim of a stroke that left her with general paralysis. Losing her ability to move led her to spend the next 6 years lying in bed until she was diagnosed with pneumonia. Mary fought but lost the battle and passed away in 1938. After the hospital closed, the facilities were exploited as an infamous rehab center. Where inhumane procedures were practiced, people suffering from drug addiction were locked in cells with just a mattress and a waste bucket. While some survived, others could not. Eventually, the rehab center also shuttered its doors, and the island was abandoned for good in 1963. Everything was left in place, but all of the buildings and other items left behind have since been reclaimed by nature. During their urban explorations, visitors reported paranormal activities as feeling a presence, hearing weird noises, or even malfunctioning electronics. Some other visitors recall sensing heavy vibes as they explored the island. There is not an apparent perspective concerning the mysterious vacant North Brother Island for now, but what is certain is that the island's reputation might stand in the way of its exploitation.